Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mark Groves Podcast. Today I'm coming at you with a solo episode, a very important one, because I'm going to be updating you on my leaving of Instagram, and that's coming up on June 1st, which is right away. So I wanted to give you more information about the things I've been discovering through conversations I've had with exceptional people and really learning more about the nervous system and how social media relates to our nervous system and we relate to it, etc. So I can't wait to dive in because I think what I'm going to explain to you will not just blow your mind, but it will give context and understanding about why you might feel the way you feel, even if just on a very subtle level. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to share that with you. Secondly, I have gotten hundreds, thousands of messages from you since I announced that I was going to be deleting my Instagram. Like, I can't believe the overwhelming amount of beautiful reflections of people being like, I feel the same way. I've been thinking the same thing. How do I create a business without social media? I don't want to have it. And I get it. And I think we really need to live into the complexity of this, because I've been thinking like, oh man, is social media just the cold calling of today? Because I used to cold call. That sucked. And, that's how we got sales, etc. So I want you to know that I'm going to live these questions out loud. I'm going to continue to share with you the things I'm learning as I'm navigating this. And really, I am committed to building a framework that doesn't require it, or in some way relates to it, where we are in control. The entity that is algorithms and what I've referred to as like an abusive sort of narcissistic dynamic, and I'm going to walk a little more to the nervous system correlation to this, but how do we relate to it in a way where we are in choice, but we're actually, it's so hard because it's like, how can you be? Even as I say that, I'm like, how can you be when there's such an inherent power dynamic? And of course, I'm sure for some of you, you're like, that's just the way it is. There's so many blessings with it. 100%. Remember, this is not so binary that we think because there are good things or bad things about something, it's all bad. But we get to decide what we consent to. And really, like, are the things we're doing in our lives bringing us joy? Are we actually like following the nudges of possibility and hope and potential? Because, when you first do something that's different than what everyone's doing, it's considered crazy. And I'm like, but there's a collective feeling that we want something different, something more. And I think the timing of Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, is so perfect because it's really speaking to the very clear mental health impact of platforms on us. And so let's just explore this. So I want to give you an update on that. The hundreds and thousands of you that wrote me also said, can you please not delete your Instagram? Just leave it up. Like, I have hundreds of posts saved that I go back to when I need this reminder or this thing. And you've written so many things. You've said so many things. You're just going to get rid of it. And so, I feel like I'm a lot more resourced now. When you like recognize that you're in a dynamic that is completely unhealthy and you're like, light a match, burn the bridge. I just wrote a newsletter that maybe you got. And if you haven't, make sure you sign up for my newsletter. You can do that on the link in the show notes because you're missing out. But I talked about how we burn bridges we don't know yet how to cross, and we burn bridges we don't want to cross back over. The deleting is because I don't yet know how to relate to it, which is the questions I was talking about just a minute ago. And I also recognize the immense amount of value that is there for people. And it's all this stuff that I've written over 10 years. And it's like, I'm just going to light the match on it, which I am actually okay with letting that go. But I also am like, okay, I'm going to leave it up. I'm going to leave it up. On June 1st, I'm going to automate 30 of the top posts of all time from the whole time I've been on there, which I'm so excited about. That actually does make me excited to actually really celebrate what it has been. I mean, I found my wife there, as I've shared before. We've created a son. There's so much beauty to come from it. I've met a lot of you through it. And I've gotten to create this podcast from that. This really brings me alive. I love this because we get to have these long form conversations of the exploration of the human experience. And I think one of the challenges of short form content is it doesn't allow us to really dive into the intricacies, which makes so much sense why we are often trapped in these binary extremes of thought. It either is this or that. it is either this or that, pro or anti, left or right, right? And when we have long form conversations, we get to witness people exploring the complexities because we are so nuanced. When we erase complexity, we erase and eradicate the complexity within ourselves. So when we actually go to these like very myopic perspectives of the world, we then start to see ourselves through that same level of simplicity. We don't give ourselves as much grace or as much compassion either. So from a nervous system perspective, I really want to explore, when I was talking to Dr. Stephen Porges, we were talking about how social media, and I think this is so fascinating, I think this will blow your mind. 24 hours a day, your content is being evaluated. Now, I think that's true for anybody with a social media platform. I think it's especially true for people who have open profiles that could be viewed by anybody, and especially even more true for people who put their expression, their art, their business, right, where random people can find it and just all of a sudden be like, I don't like it. Right? They just can all of a sudden, people who would never get exposed to it on the street can just be exposed to it randomly by algorithmic reach. So what that means from a nervous system perspective is you are constantly knowing that you're being monitored and that there is feedback being delivered to you. And so your nervous system is going to be always in this experience of like protecting because you're being surveyed constantly. So you're in a hypervigilant state. And we know that's happening because in the research, if your phone is even face down on a table, you're less vulnerable in conversations because there's on some level this like, is something greater happening on the internet right now than this conversation? So it pulls us out of these really deep human connections right in front of us. It shows you that we're like knowing that there's something going on. So like 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40% of our unconscious or conscious awareness is actually always being pulled. Woo! How do you get into rest and digest when that's happening? Second, not only are you being surveyed by people, both people you love and people you don't, you're also being surveyed by a non-human entity, an algorithm. And that algorithm is constantly saying, is this content worthy? Is it okay? Do we like it? Do we not? Do we want this person to be vilified or not? Do we want them to be celebrated or not? So what's happening is you also have this non-human entity that is constantly surveying you on an even grander scale, and I would argue is like grading it and determining if it's quote unquote worthy. Now, let's put aside the truth that there is obviously content curation and content that is better made, better put together. There's just like better skills at creating photography, writing, video, all that kind of stuff. True. And what's really interesting about that there's an algorithm, and Stephen Porges said this, is that if there's a relationship going on with you and someone else and their relationship is, their behavior is unhealthy, you can communicate that and the relationship can change or you can end the relationship. But when there is no feedback mechanism, then it's not relational. So there's no real true customer service on these platforms. If you really want to discuss with them the impact or how to be better in terms of the algorithm or like what you can do better, they give you these sort of vague, mysterious answers. And it's almost like the mystery is what keeps you motivated, is that you'll never know. The carrot is always being dangled. And I say all this because it's not relational as a model. There's no feedback mechanism for you to say to it, this is how this is impacting me. And I don't think it's because there's this massive evil entity that is social media companies. I think it's because originally they were created with a beautiful intention of creating community and content and a way to share your art, etc., right? And the intention from the original founders was felt throughout the experience on the platform when the way when the news feeds were set up, like you got the oldest thing first and then you could catch up and then that was it. You're done. It's now an endless scroll and they're feeding you stuff that they know keeps you on the platform. What happened was when it was bought by a company that is owned by shareholders, the only metric is profit. So if the things that increase profit impact you, they're not interested in that because profit is the ultimate destination, right? The ultimate intention. So if knowing about the impact of the algorithm and how they set it up and how the news feeds work and all this stuff, if they know that it impacts mental health, then they would have to change stuff that would impact income. If it helped income, trust me, it would be done. But when it doesn't help income, then there's no relational model. It's not reading the room, so to speak. So with all that said, I wanted to give you more context about why you might always feel this anxious pull, and that really think about what is possible for your life if you used all the creative energy and the thought processing energy and the scheming and all the stuff that you might do for social media. What happens if you directed it towards something else in your life? What happens if you actually took the energy that is sometimes, and again, I'm not speaking to everyone's experience of social media. You might be like, this is not me. Great. But if there is a part of you that's like, yeah, there's some truth to that, then just start to explore it. There is no massive action that has to be taken. It's just, can we follow the seeds of the curiosity? Because what I think for myself is like, man, if I'm not creating all this content and constantly doing that, what is going to come through me? Oh my God, it already has changed how I feel. Like I can feel a lightness already here, not even on the horizon. It's already here because I'm trusting. And what I do know to be true is that when you trust a deep calling that there is so much uncertainty on the other side of, there is just something about being in relationship with yourself and the trusting that is more nourishing than whatever could come from staying in the same place. And I think about how often we do that we know something's working, so we stay with it, but that thing that's working doesn't feel nourishing. And what was once nourishing can sometimes become, through awareness and just growing and changing, not nourishing anymore. So last but certainly not least, what I know to be true is that no matter what brings you or anybody to my work, whether that's a breakup or a relational challenge or something to do with maybe you got sent a podcast episode, maybe you got sent this one, it always 100% of the time comes back to you. Even if it's through a breakup and someone left you, inevitably you will be finding how you can grow, what you can take responsibility for. If you're choosing the wrong people and relating and you want to learn how to choose better, how to fix your picker, as I say, it's all about you. If you feel lost, what an opportunity to create something profound for yourself. What I know is that no matter what brings people to my work, what they always find is a deeper sense of themselves, a deeper sense of power, which comes from taking responsibility and living with that sense of curiosity and not being so rigid in how life has to look or what it should look like. Like we really start to identify the stories that we were taught to live versus the story that is trying to live through us. And can we just start to be curious about that voice, that nudge, that call? And really what, at the end of the day, I know is that when you get very clear on what you value, and then you structure your life and your relationships around those values, you feel free. And it is the relationships that we're in, both human and not, our phones, food, body, and choices. It is through the frictions we have in those that we are taught where we're not aligned and what alignment feels like. So in light of all of that, I haven't shared with you directly on the podcast, but I am creating a community. And this community is all about creating alignment. And to kick it off, on July 1st, we're going to be doing a 30-day challenge that is all about what does it mean to live an aligned life? I'll be teaching the 4 pillars once a week, and we're going to spend 30 days understanding what alignment is, what it feels like, and actually changing our lives to get into that space. So if this sounds like something you want to dive into, then let's go. You can go to markgroves.com/aligned. You'll get first crack at signing up so you can be one of the founding members of the community. And we're going to go, man. It's going to be so much fun. 30 days, July, dedicated to getting our lives into alignment and what brings us joy. And I'm so excited that I am fully stepping into that and going to continue be living that. And so I can't wait. So you can go to markgroves.com/align, save your spot. And I can't wait to see you there. Much love.